But we are here to talk about designing business collaboration, and I'm very excited to bring on our first panel, our first session. The Eco Beauty Score brings together over 70 competing companies in the beauty industry to create a unified environmental impact system for cosmetics. And together we're going to just explore a little bit more about how that came to be. So I'd like to welcome onto the stage Jean-Baptiste Massignon and Valérie Keller to explore this initiative. Just if you go towards the middle. Sorry. Day one. We're on this side. There we go. So I'm going to just do a quick introduction, and then we're going to dive straight into this very cool conversation. So let's start with you, Jean-Baptiste. Jean-Baptiste from the Eco Beauty Score Association believes that despite the current geopolitical situation, sustainability remains a defining challenge of our time. After a career as a civil servant, business exec, and consultant, Jean-Baptiste has spent the past 3 years convening a group of more than 70 players from across the beauty industry in the purpose of a common goal. One, to develop a consistent environmental impact scoring system for all cosmetic products globally, no matter the brand. So if you use a cosmetic product in your life, you are involved in this conversation. It has not always been smooth sailing, but the benefits of this type of cross-industry collaboration can far outweigh the headwinds. So welcome, Jean-Baptiste. And now let me introduce to you Valérie Keller. She is the co-founder of Imagine and CEO of Imagine. She believes that businesses can be one of the most powerful forces for creating a more just and sustainable world. After a career that has spanned social work, advising governments, guiding CEOs at the world's largest companies, she co-founded Imagine with a certain gentleman called Paul Polman, who I'm sure many of you know very well, to help visionary leaders step up and lead system-wide transformation, because global challenges demand bold and collective action. And what Valérie is going to bring to us today is an understanding of how courageous leadership can drive change at scale. So welcome, Valérie.
Pleasure. Great to be here.
Very good. So we're going to dive straight into the first question. And I'd like to start, before we dive into the beauty industry specifically, talk to me, based on your experience, how do you genuinely create industry collaboration over something that just simply looks good on paper? Jean-Baptiste, if we can start with you, and then we're going to come to you, Valérie.
Well, thank you, Liz. Actually, I have very well-crafted answers, but I think the dancers we just see said it all. Because what you need to collaborate, you need to be ambitious and daring, because you're going to work on something you cannot do it alone, and they've showed it. Second, what you need is to build trust. And what is the best way to build trust is to work together, to share your views in a very genuine way, as those guys did, and they build trust. You cannot do that, what they did, if you don't have trust. And you have also to accept that you will not be strong on your own. And all those two persons were, I'm sure, very good individually, but the beautifulness of what they created was because they were together. And I think very much it says it all about what we're trying to do: be bold and daring, ambitious, trust one another and build that concretely. And second, last, accept that you will be stronger together.
Thank you. Valérie, what do you think in terms of your experience with working with thousands of leaders?
Well, I love the bridge to the dancers as well. And for us, when you say industry collaboration, we always think the human beings, right? So we talk about the systems, and say organizations are made of organisms. There's some human beings who, if they have a shared care and a shared passion for the world, can do things in a different way. So I love what Otto was sharing about the social field and this notion that says that when people come together who have a shared passion and a shared purpose, we can move mountains. Can you hear me okay? Is that all right? Yes? Okay. Perfect. So Imagine is our part of that. When Paul and I were saying, what could we help imagine a better world together, we said, how can we help create a space for leaders? We call it Courageous Collective. So leaders to come together. So Imagine being a global leadership community for impact goes exactly as what you were saying. Because at the core, if we come together as friends, as fellow travelers, if we have the trust between us, we can move mountains. And so from a how do we then have this kind of disconnect between what we see as the really negative trends in the world to what we see today from leaders today? For us, it's about saying, how do we make leaders who have a shared care proximate to each other? So from an Imagine's perspective, we're literally saying we're curating tribes of people in business, corporate executives, disruptive innovators, investors. So if you look around the room today, people who have those hats, who if we partner together as friends, as fellow travelers, who back each other, can move this conversation from business as a force for good up here. We wish that somebody would start moving in a different way to then say it's up to us to be the leaders that we need to be. So the question we have for us is, those of us who are here in this hall, how are we leveraging this moment, the couple of days that we're together, to find each other, to see how we can back each other, and that this isn't an esoteric conversation around business and industry, but we're saying we're here because we care. You wouldn't be here already if you weren't already somehow in business and wanting to make an impact. So one of the things that we're also seeing, and what Kevin and the Change Now team is doing, is communities of communities coming together to then say we can't be fragmented and separate in our own parts. We need to come together and say, how do we open our networks? How do we give each other our opportunities that we have, put each other on stages, step into our own thought leadership? Because if you just look now, and we were talking about this with some of us in the world, there's a certain huge gap in leadership, and in particularly business leadership. And if you think about my co-founder, Paul Pullman, when he was in the CEO of Unilever, there was a pack of other leaders who were standing up and being like, no, leading businesses is long-term and going for multi-stakeholder. And when you look up today, where that pack seems to be missing. So the invitation we have for us is to not lose hope, to not get discouraged, but at the same time realize that it takes all of us to step into our collective leadership as we can right now. Ladies and gentlemen, my co-founder, Paul Pullman, I was just talking about you as well. So how do we take the mantle of leadership that is upon us today to then say we're not going to be waiting for others to then say we wish the world was moving in a different direction. And that is our invitation, and that's why Imagine is here supporting. That's why we believe in the initiatives that we're doing in the beauty and personal care industry and food and fashion. And we say let's scope it down from this systems level up here to then saying, okay, who are the partners that can partner together for the transformation of beauty and personal care? Who are the partners that can partner together for transformation in food and fashion and hospitality? And I can give some concrete examples that before we talk from our next panel as well.
Yeah, so let's dive into this incredible example of industry collaboration in the beauty industry. You have been at the forefront over the last 3 years, creating this very new initiative called the Eco Beauty Score. Can you tell us a little bit more about what it is? And then we'll dive into some of the inflection points as to how you managed to get over 70 industry players to come and somehow work together, because we want to know.
As you said, Liz, everyone in this very large hall is a very likely user of Eco Beauty Score. Eco Beauty Score has developed over the past years a scoring system of the environmental impact of beauty products. And it will be deployed within a few weeks as of May 19th, ecobeautyscore.org. And you can access info of the brands who have published scores and get the rating of the products you use. So this has been developed over more than 3 years at the initiative of an industry-wide coalition formed, as you said, with more than 70 players, be it brands, small or very large multinationals, trade associations from all continents, actually, and after much effort within a scientific framework with gathering tons of data, developing a rather complex methodology. They have come out with this platform that started operated a few months ago and which will go live, as I said, in a few weeks. And that's indeed a very ambitious undertaking.
But I think one of the things that really stood out for me when I heard about this initiative is it really was from the industry, by the industry, for the industry. And I'd like to just dive in a little bit more about how you actually brought such a diverse group of stakeholders together.
Yeah, actually it's from the industry, by the industry, but to consumers. It's consumers directed, and what is important is to onboard consumers. As we all know, and actually it's very consistent with Otto's numbers, 2/3 of consumers expect to get a commitment from the brands they use and expect to have a reliable info about their commitment to environmental protection. And that's exactly what you get through the scoring system. And the beauty, if I may say, of it is that you can compare products in a very reliable, continuous, and transparent way with a very simple score, A to E. And when you get a shampoo on the rack, you can see whether it's scored B or D or whatever. So that's for consumers, and it's undertaking that has been initiated and piloted by the brands, but with the very first, a scientific framework, which is a mantra of what we're doing. Second, an awareness of upcoming regulations, which led to a very transparent and kind of auditable framework. And last, with regular stakeholder engagement.
A term that I love and I'm slightly obsessed with, stakeholder engagement. And talking about, given that you have a bit of a platform view of different industries, and you've been closely following what's been happening in the beauty industry, when you look at this particular initiative and compare it with some of the other sectors, such as hospitality, what do you think stands out for you with an initiative like the Eco Beauty Score?
I mean, I'm happy to answer the question in a bit of a different way, if you don't mind. Imagine has been on this question of how. How do you bring together the right players to affect change, that you're also in that space? And I think for us, what we look at is saying how you can have the companies across the value chain who are the right leaders within those. So us last week in Oxford University, where we leverage that as a convening platform to bring leaders together, we would have leaders from Coty in the beauty industry put in proximity with disruptive innovators who have new technologies that can help to scale them. Because what drives us crazy is being able to see these great new initiatives and ideas and these platforms, these regulatory standards, and not see them adopted at scale. So what we're committed to, from an Imagine's perspective, is to say what beauty is doing, also we have seen happening and being a part of in the fashion space. So I'll give an example and a segue to Brune, who you'll hear. When Paul and I were first starting Imagine, we said, can we help to assemble the right set of players across the fashion space who are the brands, the disruptive innovators who are making new things, new materials, right? We were buying just last week that you can make fabrics out of plastic pulled from the ocean. This technologies exist, traceability, transparency, all these new standards that are there, but you put human beings together who can say, we can adopt those together. And the same thing then when we partnered with, you'll meet Glenn, who leads the hospitality, sustainable hospitality. He comes into the Imagine Leaders community and says, let's assemble the constellation of leaders, corporate executives, disruptive innovators, investors who have a shared passion and care around transforming hospitality. Let's us come together and hear what is it that we can scale at pace. And those of us who are in the space being open with our networks, open with our ideas, backing each other. So that theory of change, which is what beauty is starting to step into, and we see it very much with your work, we see happening in food, fashion, hospitality, and beauty. And the invitation, I think, for each of us is to think about how do you in your space assemble the right set of players who could have the trust, who could have the friendship, who could have the partnership to begin to back each other together.
Well, can I bring you in on this one, Jean-Baptiste? Like, how did you bring together the initial Kickstarters, champions? You know, do you wait for unanimous decision that you're going to do something? Do you start with a coalition of the willing? Is this all happening on WhatsApp? Is it emails? We want some tangibles as to how you manage 70 competing players. And if you could also give us a slight sense of how you manage the different, I should say egos, but let's say the different, the power imbalance that comes with either being a huge brand and maybe a smaller brand and giving everybody a voice.
One, as you said, it's an industry initiative, and there were a few initiatives, and actually Paul Polman knows very well one of them, and that formed an initial group and then spread the word. And very quickly, there were, actually when it was designed, it was expected that there would be 20 brands. It started with 5. 2 months after, there were 25. 6 months after, there were 50 plus brands. And we got incoming calls from very small firms out of China that we did not expect. And, well, join the fun. And they did. And some are still there. It's been a demanding journey. The initial expectation was that it would be done over 24 months, which was, I think, quite unrealistic. And more than 3 years after, we have 35 brands with us. And are we nearing a launch? There are additional brands that are joining. And from the outset, we invited trade associations to join, because that's very important in terms of stakeholder engagement. And as I said, we have trade associations covering many countries with us. In terms of operating system, I have to say that it's a machinery. And we're glad that there are digital platforms that help operate, frankly, dozens of meetings per quarter. And we have an ironclad set of rules which were heavily discussed, and it's always fun to have a discussion with 20 general counsels from all over the world to agree on bylaws and applicable rules. But that's very necessary, and we play by the book. We play by the book, still being flexible and agile. And I think the closer we get to the deployment, the more agile we get.
Perfect.
Elizabeth, so, within food, what we did was bring the CEOs together as fellow travelers. So we had everybody from Walmart to the Unilevers, Nestle's. I was just with the CEO of Nestle yesterday as well. We relate all the way to the different parts of the value chain, and people showed up as husbands and fathers and mothers, and we asked them, what do you care about? And they related to each other. And you said, do you have a WhatsApp group? Yes, we created a WhatsApp group. Exactly. We would literally put them in spaces where they showed up as human beings. And we call each other fellow travelers. And if you see somebody with a feather, we say birds of a feather flock together. We created a community of brothers and sisters. And the same thing within fashion, the same thing within hospitality. And that is where I think there's an invitation for people who then say, how can I replicate what I see happening in beauty and personal care and others, is to not complicate it, to find the human beings who have a shared care and put us together in partnership.
I couldn't have put it better to myself. Birds of a feather flock together, which is why we are all here today. We are at time, so thank you so much for your input. I have asked all of our speakers to stay on at the end of this session, so if you do want to come and find out a little bit more about it, some of their initiatives, please come and see, well, not all of you, but if you need to come.
And Imagine has an invitation for you from 3 o'clock, so we'll be over up in this kind of area. You can come and find us, but if you want to continue the conversation and concretely partner together, we're here to help provide space for that.
I leave you with the thought of a meeting with 20 general counsels from 20 different brands. If anybody's had a hard day, that probably is it. But thank you so much for telling us a bit more about Eco Beauty Score. Who uses shampoo here? Who uses shampoo? Okay, so what are you going to do on the 19th of May? You're going to check out the Eco Beauty Score when it launches, yeah?
Yes, thank you very much,
Thank you
Liz.
so much, everybody. Thank you so
thank
much.
You, everyone.